anybody's interested, you can go online. This is what Bartley's gel looks like. It's a wipe on, wipe off poly. You wipe it on and you completely wipe it off the surface. And it's over. And that is mineral spirit based.
Is that food safe?
Yep. Almost all your finishes are food safe once they gas out.
All right.
When I come back, we'll do a pepper mill. That's a great class. The way I do pepper mill is a little bit different than other people, but it'll save you a lot of time and effort. Okay, what was I going to do? I was going to buff that right now. You can pass that around. I do a lot of the little layered bowls. You just take old wood and glue it together. Then you do everything on the lathe. Then I'll just put a jam chuck on it and take the waste block off. Now when you're using wax, you never use more than 900 to 1,000 RPM, ever. Because if you have too high RPMs, then what you'll do is you'll lay little strings of wax on the surface. And then you have to save your buffing wheel off to take them back off. Is that thing going around?
Yes, just right here.
Okay. All right.
So what did you buff it with?
Vonax, V-O-N-A-X. It's a German polish. You can buff it with white diamond. We did it at Sammy's shop yesterday. But Vonax is made in Germany specifically for buffing out acrylic, plastic, Bakelite, and animal horn. So if you have a product that's designed specifically to buff your plastic, wouldn't it be smart to use that tool? And the white diamond, if you put it on dark walnut, it's going to put white in all the little pores, right? And it'll drive you nuts.
Mark, how expensive is the Vonax?
Have you done that?
What?
How expensive is the Vonax?
I sell it for $20 a bar. If you guys want to order a case, if you order one bar from England, right, it's $40-something postage. If you order 25, it's still $40. It's still under that class 1 air weight limit,
Yeah.
so it's still $40. And so I just buy cases of it because when I'm going on doing my classes, you know, people want to do that. And once they start using it,
Well, does it work on other finishes other than acrylic? Like, let's say, lacquer.
you can put it on lacquer, but use white diamond on lacquer. White diamond is designed to buff lacquer.
Okay.
Use the product that's designed to go with it.
The problem is we don't have that information.
Yeah, that's probably asking, we don't know what's designed for what.
Well, you can go on and look at these product specification sheets or whatever, material data safety sheet and all that. Everything's outlined if you do your research. Okay, that's just a little carnauba. We'll slow this down to about 900 or so.
They're made for that.
Okay, so now we'll take and we'll do a little carnauba on here. You won't see much of a difference. What this does, it does not. The one coat that I spread on there and wipe off will not make a total glass surface. You would have to do build-up coats. The liability there is you couldn't use that on hollow forms. If you do 2 or 3 coats on a hollow form, then the wood underneath expands and contracts with the change of humidity every day. It would eventually crackle. Right? I think I did it all the way around. It would eventually crackle. So once you put the 3408 inside the cells of the wood, number one, it stabilizes the wood, and number two, it becomes part of the wood, and you have no eggshell on the outside to crackle. Okay, so we put the wax on there, and that makes a pretty nice finish, and you've done it in 10 minutes, right? And it's really fun. If anybody's in like, now see, all I've got to do on this type hollow form, I just put it on there, right? I keep my center tip all the time. I never ever get rid of my center tip, because I can put a cone on here, put my pin in here, and I can make my final cuts and do my sanding and finishing. Right? And then when you're turning a hollow form, if you'll notice this hollow form, right? As soon as I get it off the lathe, I've done hollow, I dribble super glue on the rim. And I put super glue down the pith. Guess what? It doesn't crack, folks. You've stabilized it.
And just those two spots.
Right. So if you're going to put the super glue on a bowl, let's say it's a box elder bowl, which you're going to turn. Remember one thing. If you use super glue, doing all kinds of repairs and everything else, super glue and box elder are not compatible. If you put super glue on wet box elder, it'll make a chartreuse spot. So when he turns that in, if he turns it, well, he uses a segment, but if you turn an end grain bowl and you got the pith in the bottom of the bowl, right? What I do when it comes off the lathe, I spray accelerator on the inside of the bowl, and I flood the pith with accelerator. Then I turn it upside down, and I put the thin super glue on the tenon. And when it seeps through, it can't seep through to the wood because the accelerator stops it. So then if I put a different type of finish on there, it hasn't got here to turn that chartreuse or to close the pores so that the regular finish won't go in. But it's a way to stabilize these things. So on this, we would do what? We would do an insert collar. And while it was on the chuck, we would take it over to the threading machine and we would thread the collar. And then we would do the finial like you saw me do it. And you know what we'll do? We're going to thread. Train you to do technical work in machine shops and everything else like that. So anyway, so I took 9th grade shop, and bless his soul, Mr. Zerolaki, may you rest in heaven. But all he used was scrapers. Well, I didn't know any different then. I was happy. Anyway, so a guy came walking by my house one day, and I owned Atlanta Tree Trimmers, and so he came by and he saw all of the burls. Oh, I'm turning this thing on.
Can you move the mic closer to your mouth?
What?
Closer. Pull it down, closer down there.
Okay.
Keep popping back up though. Was that not bend, Gerald?
Yeah, it should.
All right, well,
Look.
We tried. This is made for us. Yeah, maybe one of those before. Try that. There you go.
thank you.
I think it's the lathe. This causing the feedback.
Well, it might be this. Maybe it's spinning. Okay, this is a side grain. This is, quote, a side grain bowl. So if anybody's interested real quick, we'll take you through the real quickies here, and then we'll make a recess. Okay, we've got it between centers. And of course, to get it rough, what do? We always put it on our hip and move our hip 45, 45. And you don't see it jumping and shattering and all that stuff. Alright? You allow the tool to do the work. gets it round quick. I should always ask, is anybody allergic to walnut? Okay. Now we'll take that corner off. Now, why do you think I make that little tiny center tip on all my things?
It's in the middle of your jaw.
So you know.
Thank you. We'll go down the middle of the jaws without restricting. Okay, so what we've done is I've got it between centers. It's not on a face plate or anything like that, so I have to maintain this support, don't I? Dovetail. This is in the way, isn't it? That's dangerous. Any tool that I try to use, unless it was on a face plate or a jaw, is going to have this all in the way, right?
Yes, you made it cool.
Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this little tool. It's got a right angle here, and it's got a 7-degree offset here, and going that way. All right. So now I can go in here safely. Right? I can stand right here and get about the size of my recess. Right? And I'm paralleling this little 7 degree. I'm bringing that little at 7 degree with the bottom of my bowl. And so that's going to make this go back at a little angle. I can go forward, backward.
That's great. That's
And what?
That's just straightening it.
Yes, sir. Because all this is going to go away anyway, isn't it? Right. So we'll stop the lathe. We'll take a look. Right. And I've got my little recess in there. And I've got the right depth that I need for my jaws, and I've got the right angle I need for my jaws. So then the 3 cuts that you make on the outside of a side grain bowl, there's 3 cuts. You're going to use a bowl gouge. We're going to put the top blade 1/4 inch away from the surface. Can you see that? Okay, and we're just going to pull the handle with our hips. We grab the handle at the end and we pull it around. So what's going to happen on a side grain bowl? See how that's all fuzzed up? We come across that grain. Why? Because look, it violates the first rule of wood turning. The wood is coming directly into that blade. It's a scrape. So if we want to change the architecture of our shaving, what we're going to do is we're going to turn the bowl upside down, the bowl gouge upside down, roll it over, and put the top blade about a 32nd inch away from the surface. Now when I pull it around my hip, we're going to get angel hair. Now if anybody wants to come up and feel it, there's hardly any. You still got a little fuzz, but not much. Feel, feel it right there. So what's the final cut that you make on the outside? Yeah, that's shear pull or whatever. So what's the final cut that you always make on your side grain bowl to get no tear out? What do? You push it. And you push it from where? You push it from the bottom up to the rim on side grain. Now, I've got this between centers. What if I've got a reverse and I can't, this thing is in my way? What do? How do I make that cut? Somebody. What?
Special tool.
No, I've got to make this before I take it off between center. I've got to make the outside shape final. So what tool do you have in your arsenal that's going to do that, that's going to allow you to push it and not interfere?
Spindle gouge?
We usually don't use the spindle gouges on the, what do I do with this? Let me get this.
Suicide too.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a bottom feeder. Everybody's got a bottom feeder, right?
No.
Bottom.
I don't.
No.
It was real steep. Oh, real steep. Yeah.
It's the same bow gouge, except this has about an 80-degree angle on it. Right here, and since the bevel is that way, where's the tool handle? It's out here, right? So then I can start here, and I'm going to push it with my right hand. I'm going to put my hands way back on my body. See that? You what?
I've never seen any of this type before.
Remember my philosophy of life. If everybody does something for a certain way, there's a reason not to. Because the masses are being programmed and people want to sell stuff to them and all that other stuff. You know, they're being programmed. You know, so now does anybody want to come up and see an outside final side grain, even coming across it? I defy anybody to come up here and make a cut better. And if you want to try it, you're welcome. But come up here and feel it if you doubt me.
Now I got a use for my bottom feeder. I've never been able to use one. Period.
So, is it using the bottom feeder? How easy is it to control the depth that you're going to be going into?
You steer it the way you
I
want.
know, because you took off quite a bite when you did.
Well, I did coming around, but this hasn't even been finalized as far as the
Right,
shape.
yeah,
So if I was going to do, oh, excuse me, I didn't see that.
Had a hand on it.
So with that steep bevel right there,
Yeah.
see that? Yeah. I'm wondering, I can take a micro bite. Whoop. Let me get right there, get my hand back on my body where it belongs.
Now, you're not pulling at all, right?
No, you push.
You're just pushing.
You never pull a farmer's plow sideways. You always push the point into the dirt. I'm letting the tool do the work.
Okay, I see. Shine it out.
Now, you feel that cut?
Right, yeah.
Wow,
Is
I
there
can
any,
see it.
is there any tear out?
No.
No. Now, you're always gonna have little nervous ridges because nobody can steer it exactly perfect. But I can sand that out in just a couple seconds because there's
What did-
no tear out.
What is, that's
This is
80
bottom
degrees?
feeder. Yeah.
80
Yeah.
degrees.
Watch how simple it is, folks.
Is that the same thing as a traditional grind, though?
It's what?
Is that like what they call a traditional grind?
No.
It's not?
No, a
Because some
traditional
people-
grind is rolled. This is swept back.
Oh, okay. So it's a little different than the bottom feeders that they advertise, you know.
They're straight
I
across.
mean, Thompson's bottom feeder is
Straight across. It's a U shape, straight across.
Right, yeah.
Right? Yes, it works good, but this works a little better. Because he's limited, right? He was a good guy, I demonstrated.
Right, yeah.
But what I'm saying is the tool becomes limited. This becomes something that I can use in different things.
It's a multi-use tool.
And all I'm doing,
I got you.
I take my vari grind, and I set it up on notch number 3, and I roll it back and forth. Then I just have a thing on my thing. I pull this out about 1.5 inches, and the grind is still the same, but it just makes it up at a greater degree.
Right.
Okay, so we've done the outside of a side grain bowl, right? All right, now let's do the tricks on the inside. Has anybody ever here turned a side grain bowl?
Hey, I've got a question, Mark.
Yes,
On your recess tool,
yeah,
what surfaces do you sharpen?
okay.
Do you sharpen 3 edges on it? Do you sharpen-
What's it? Okay. Okay, this here, I have to sharpen this side, right? I have to sharpen this side, and I have to sharpen this side, right? Because I'm pushing that forward.
We'll take a picture of it.
You bet.
If you're looking on the web, Mike Peace has got a video on making it. You got a video on making one of those?
No, I taught him how to do
You
it.
got, well, he made the video after you revealed the secret. Mike Peace. He loved it, yes. He does his a little bit different than Mark's profile, but it's the same thing. What are you doing?
Okay, what was I, oh, we were gonna do the inside. Let me knock this out. But does everybody get that? We use tools to do the jobs, right? And if I can make that final slice on the outside, man, there's no tear out. I'm an hour ahead of myself, you know? Now, always make sure that you get the dust and the fire. Okay, we're going to do our safety cut. Round that off. Now, this will be interesting because how many people have never used a bottom feeder? All right, you guys need to come up. and use your bottom feeder today. All right?
Should've known better.
So our final cut is going to be from the outside in. Okay. So you can see that we can make, if anybody wants to come up here and feel the cut, right?
You can see it shining
You
clear.
see it shining here.
Okay. Who hasn't used a bottom feeder? Come on up.
Successful enough.
What? Come on up.
He volunteered.
Come on up, Dustin.
Gary too.
Okay, you got a pair of glasses or?
You have to buy a special bottom feeder.
Got any
roll.
glasses?
There's the hood right, killed.
Somewhere. Should be. Maybe some the other way.
It has to say bottom
There you
feeder
go.
on it. Before it works.
Okay, so you're gonna make your regular push cut, correct?
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, the bottom feeder has a real steep angle. So that means to go to center, see where I've got it? I've got it almost level. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna go in here, right? Twist it out like at a 45. Get your little, see, rub the bevel. Come over until you get the cut line. Boom, you start to pick up the cut line. Now roll it up till about 1 o'clock. And then get back and just hold it. Just hold it ever so still. And just let it push itself across the bottom. Let it ricochet off of the bevel. Okay, don't push with your left hand. Bring your left hand way back here. There. Hold it down. No, hold it down. There you go. Push it down. Now, just slowly raise it up a little. There you go. And go right into the center of rotation. Nice and slow. And then I'll come around, raise the tool handle, get right to the center tip there. Right, you don't want to leave it. As I start to go across bingo, right, I'm going to do pretty good with my bottom feeder. But then I've got that problem of this thing moving back. So what we're going to do, this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the left side of the tool rest down in the bowl. If I put the left side in there, right? Now when I do this, look how close my leverage point is. So now I can control it. And then as soon as I get part way, what do? I lift it up and I move it in a little bit more. And I'm never more than 1.5 inches away. So I've got total control. I'm not fighting anything, right? And I can move this, and if I move this way, I'm actually getting closer to the, not farther away with my leverage point. Now, what you do, this is a beautiful tool rest. But my tool rest, right, that I have, it's the robust like this, I've taken my grinder, I've ground it all the way like this. So this is a little point, and it curves out like this. And I can stick that way down in the deep bowl, and down in that transition, I can come down the wall with a regular bowl. But on a deep bowl, then I can't make that turn because I can't follow the bevel. But if I take my bottom feeder and put it down in there, then I can come around and I don't have to hit this, but I put the tool rest down in there and I've got total microscopic control. Was that worth the price of admission?
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, okay. Now another thing, all right, when you do this, I think I showed everybody the sandpaper trick, didn't I? The sanding? Okay. All right. Just remember, no power sanders. All right. And always put a V-slot in your paper if you're sanding on the inside of a bowl. If you don't make a dart, you're going to put a pressure point. And every grit you go to, you're still putting pressure
Can you
points.
show that again? I didn't see
Yeah.
that. Sorry,
Come on up here. Come on up here. You're going to learn hands-on. Hands-on. Only way to learn what to. Okay. If I put this this paper in here to sand, what happens? It crinkles up. And so where that crinkles up is putting pressure points, isn't it?
Yes.
If I just put a dart in this sandpaper, when I put it on the inside of a bowl, right? Let me get that. I got two pieces there. There we go. Right, now watch. Now, you see that closing and opening?
I do.
Is it wrinkling up?
No, sir.
Right, so now I never make a pressure point. So my sanding, even if I go to 800 and I have crinkles, I can't get it done right because why? It always makes pressure points. Worth the price of admission.
Yes, sir.
Gonna save you hours.
Yes, sir.
But that's a great trick. And if you have a pad, like I use these like Merca Merlon pads, what's nice about them, they're still flexible, but you don't get any hot. See, it still moves underneath there where it opens and closes, see? And it'll automatically change as the curve changes. So that'll save you at least an hour on sanding.
At least.
Is there anything else you guys want to see? So I've covered side grain bowls. Now, when you take the back off of this, what do? You put it on a jam chuck, right? And you just make it concave. You don't leave the little corner from the chuck. Galleries reject that. Anything else? I've got glue for sale. I've got Vonex for sale. I've got wood for sale. And I hope you all enjoyed some of these tips. And you guys get together as a wood turning club, right? Whether I'm here or not, right? If you have a garage, somebody can get a mini lathe in. Call up some of your fellow woodturners and say, hey, would you come on over to my garage? It's going to be it's raining all day Thursday. Come on over. Let's just, turn together. I'm in that garage, early in the morning turning, but I like to have people come by. I have a ball when somebody comes by, because something I learn from every student. I hope that you got an idea. I've got a lot of tricks up my sleeve, right? But the whole object is, number one, we want tools to do the work. Number two, we want to be safe, right? And number three, we want to see how slow we can make the cut. Micro cut, super slow, allow the tool to do the job, yes.
You showed us an arsenal of tools. I've been in this for 2 months. What do you suggest me to go buy as far as chipping?
Buy a 3/8 spindle gouge, a 3/8 bowl gouge, and a straight blade, not a diamond blade, cutting tool. And that's basically all you need. You don't even need the roughing gouge, because you can rough with a bowl gouge. You can rough with a spindle gouge. Right, those 3 tools, you can make 99.9% of everything in woodturning. You can even do the hollowing, right, and all that. See this? You can take a simple, this is like that.
Mark, while you're looking for that, are your glues inside or outside?
They're outside. See that? You just take a scraper. There's a hollowing tool.
You stick it and make your own, huh?
Right. What do you think those lines are on there for?
Can't go that, reach out that far over the tool rest.
Right? This is the bottom of the hollow form. In this angle, I look over the top of the hole.
That's your depth?
That's my wall depth. See? I put this over the, because this is all solid right now, right? So I put this over, and I put the point out. If I wanted a 1/4 of an inch, I look at that, and I put the center of that blade right through the center of the hole, and I make a line across there. That's as far as I can go with the tool. So then all I have to do is stick the tool rest down inside, right? And I can hollow safely. The problem with most people, right, is they hollow from a tool rest. Well, what happens? If I get down inside a hollow, I can't control it. So what do you do about it? They make box. Let me see if I got this in here. Okay. Okay, they make standard box rests, which you can buy. So now I can put it down in the hole, and this keeps me from going below center. And it does what? As long as the point is inside the left wall, there's no torque. So I have no torque this way, right? And I can't go below center for danger. And all I've got to do is just hollow it. Now, in my hollow form, if I have a hollow form like this, right, the box rest is not as good. So what I do is I've got a tool rest. See, that's in the shape of a 6. So now when I go on the inside, see that? It goes all the way down in there. And my hollowing tool, the tool rest is never more than a 1/2 inch away from the surface I'm working on. If you're way out here and you have even a boring bar, a hollowing tool, you're getting all this damn vibration when you get down there. Eliminate it. It costs you what, $10 at a welding shop? Hello? But the problem with the hollowing is the vibrations, because every time your tool goes down, it goes up an equal amount. It's a sine wave, right? And that vibration sometimes will drive you nuts, because if you advance it and it's going on and up, then it'll want to grab that sucker and flip it off the lathe if you don't have a steady rest around it. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Right? I've got these support bars. When I have my hollowing rig on, down in there, I stick these things down in there like 12 inches. You take a 1-inch bar, you take it over to 90 degree, you weld a gusset in it, you take it on down, and then you make a 90 degree that way. Even my hollowing tool I'm down in there, I eliminate any of that super vibration. Come on, for $10, $15. You now have what we call a safety feature, right? And it's a lot easier to detect. Another thing, right? All these battery laser guides and all that, throw them out, right? Go to Instapark, right? You can buy a laser diode with a circuit board and everything on it, right, for $4.85. A 3.1 volt transformer is like $17. I just plug it into the wall and I've got constant laser for as long as I want.
Where is that?
Instapark, 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 they're out in California. They make industrial lasers and all that. So I just plug I don't have to worry about it. Now another thing, I don't have the right tool here, but I've got another hollowing tool. I've got another hollowing tool that I've got a notch. I've got a notch right here. And guess what? My laser fits right on here. It's plugged in. And I can just do it by hand. All this little small stuff I can do by hand so quick, it's unbelievable.
Ever use arm brace?
I tried it one time and I said, nope, it's not for me. Because if I ever pull a joint or anything, you know, my big hollowing machine is the Gizmo. It's industrial strength, right? It's never, I mean, it's so smooth. It's just ball bearing smooth, right? It's just unbelievable. And again, you can put any cutter head you want in that thing, right? All you do is just use reducers, right? So if you get one with a
Carter or rollers?
yeah,
Carters?
yeah. And you know what I did? Right? I called up the engineers at Carter and I told them how to make an improvement on it. They didn't do it. Right? I called up Craig Jackson. Right? He was the owner of the Easy Wood Tools. I was at a symposium. Right? I showed him how to improve his tool so professionals would use it. He sent me about a 65-page booklet from a lawyer to fill out all these papers. And I says, Craig, you can have the damn idea. I don't give a shit. I'll sign a notebook paper that says you have free rights to it. But I gave him the idea. So guess what? He doesn't use it. It's okay. You know why? Because I'll buy his $21 heads if I'm going to do the inside of like a snare drum or something. You know? Then I take that little carbide tip, I put it at an angle, right? And I draw it back, and it'll clean the inside of a drum just perfectly on my hollowing system. But I don't even know if I have it. I might have it, wouldn't I? Let me just see if I've got a tip. I'll show you how to make it so that a professional can use it. Like that. That could have been like a bullet flying through the air. Okay, so he uses his tool like this. And what is it, folks? It's a direct scrape. But what if you use it like this? You rub the bevel, make the cut line. See what's coming off of there? Angel hair. I've got that knot in there. There we go. Let me get this back. Maybe that was not a good, it's going to be a good choice. Okay, but now that little knot was in there. But now, if you'll come up and feel this, there is no tear out. Why? Because I'm using it as a slicer. So what you do is you take the base and you get rid of that so that this angle will act as the bevel. And you can come right across and do that. It's just that simple. So, for whatever. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed it, and we're just full of stuff, and this is one of the things that we do. We always try to leave white sapwood so that we have fingers down, fingers up. You know. But make simple things, you know. It's a tool for my safety, right? I can get down there and by hand and have that thing hollowed out before people can get their hollowing rig set up. Thanks again. Ooh. Not engaged. There we go. So now I'm going to reinsert this. It may not be exact, but we're going to make it. Do it. Well, I went in there before. I can't see. Let me see. There we go.
Mark, why wouldn't you go into that piece with an undercut that established a center point?
I could, but it's between centers.
No, when you were cutting it before you broke the end piece off.
Okay. Now, if I hadn't have made that cut, if I'd have used my calipers at first, I was just demonstrating how to raise the thing, I wouldn't have had to do that, right? So, it's not going to be running exactly true, so what I'm going to have to do is I do have a new burnish point, don't I? You see that little shiny? Okay, so I'll just go up here. This is very, very, very important. Okay, so now I've got my squeaky exact fit. Okay, so we're going back on here. Now the next thing we're going to do, where's my hole here? Wherever my center was. There it goes. Okay, so now I've got to take my spindle gouge. Well, I've got to take my spindle gouge and make an edge. So what do? We do a flat cut. How do we do a flat cut? We always lock the heel of our hand on the tool rest. We grip the tool, we come halfway down the blade, and we rotate our hip to the right. We never pull our hand left or right across the tool. Yep. Okay. So all I do is rotate my hip to the right too. Now I have a razor sharp edge. I take a skew. This is the exact side. You see where it's shining, where it's burnished? So now I'm going to make my skew blade absolutely parallel to this. I'm going to touch the edge, keeping the blade parallel to the surface. I'm going there and I'm making that undercut. Just to make sure that this edge is razor sharp, I'm going to do it one more time, halfway down the blade. And I'm going to start to make my dome for the, I'll make one more little cut and I'll make the dome. There's the dome for my, you have, messed up. Now don't do that with a square piece or anything. Make sure that it's been rounded before. Right now there's still a little bit of wobble in there. You go up, you just touch it. See that? Boom. Now look at that.
But you have to totally tighten your jaws to feed the guy.
No, they're not tightened.
You're gonna let this.
But see, here's what happens. Right? Sometimes people put a piece of wood back on the chuck. It was rounded according to how that chuck squoze the fibers of the wood. So now they put it back on. Uh-oh, we made it a little bit tighter, and now the jaw makes it, and it knocks it off a little bit. So hell, So now, oh, my bowl is back out of round or something. No, so what I'm saying is, if you just, but you can't be jamming it, you just barely touch that. And make sure that you're on something really smooth and round so that you only got a little piece of wood. You don't want any resistance, right? Center hole, we should be in pretty good shape. So now we'll tighten this down. Okay, now, the most important thing that you can ever do if you're making a finial is create an isosceles triangle on the wood. Why?
Well, if I knew what an isosceles triangle was, I might could answer.
Okay?
Two sides of.
An isosceles triangle has two equal sides and one unequal side.
Well, I'm an idiot, and I just proved it.
No?
No questions are stupid questions. Absolutely.
Okay,
I knew it, but I was a math major, so I think.
Okay.
My hat's off to you.
No,
okay. So think of a church steeple.
Wahoo.
That's an isosceles triangle. Right? Now, if you take your stuff to an art gallery, right, once you make this isosceles triangle, something is going to happen. Does anybody know what it is?
It's gonna get broke.
Yeah.
Now, why don't I start way back here at first? Because the cut would get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. You always work backwards into your designs in wood turning. So where is the base of my isosceles triangle going to be?
Where your dome is, right?
The edge of the dome. All right?
By the way, you're gonna need to spell isosceles for us. I'm an engineer. I
I don't know.
Mark, why would you call that an isosceles instead of taper?
You can call it a taper.
Taper, right?
No, I just call it isosceles triangle.
Isosceles tone.
Yeah.
Separate grains of sand here, you know, that's.
But as you'll notice, this is not a Morse taper. Too much of an angle. So again, just for safety, I always have my students stop the lathe to break the tip off. Because there's going to be one day when that thing comes at you at 40 miles an hour, even though it's small, you don't know where it's going to go. So how do we make a point in wood turning? We take the center of the blade to the center of rotation. And again, you'll notice what's on my, my hands are way back here, right? People get up here, and as soon as you see somebody with a thumb on a tool, you know that they ain't gonna cut it. Because do you push a farmer's plow sideways through the field? No. Wears out the horse. And the reason they put it up there is they say, oh crap, this thing's going to kick back. I got to prevent it from kicking back. Why? Because they don't understand the east-west rule, which you've seen in my videos, right? And what that, I'll do it at a fat part here. If I have this tool, the flute faces to the east. If the tool goes into the east, right, and I make bevel contact, is there any skating or scooting or catching? No. But guess what? Once I have that bevel contact, you know what I can do? I can write poetry in my head. I can take my tool anywhere I want. Do you see it catching, skating? You know where it's a bowl gouge, roughing gouge, spindle gouge? I can go and make concave cuts, whatever I want. But without bevel contact, without the point driving the cut line to its final destination, you'll always have tear out. I'm getting carried away.
You see Sammy smiling over here, don't you?
What?
You see Sammy smiling, don't you?
Now wait a minute. There's a difference between tear out and rustic embellishment.
Well, that set me free.
Okay, so we're taking the center of the tool to the center of rotation, and when we get down right to the tip, we stop moving the tool physically and we move it mentally. We just hold the tool right there. We think about it going forward. And it will, and we'll get down to one fiber. And if we can't get it exactly down to one fiber, we do what? That's all we do. We put a fresh little burr on it, and now it'll come down to one fiber, even on a 2x4. Okay, now Cindy Drozda makes like a little reverse scoop up with a little thing, whatever. You know, it doesn't make any difference what you want to do. I'm just going to make a little sort of a bead cut right here. I'm going to roll a little bead. All right, now we're going to do a disc. We're going to raise the tool, touch it on the bottom blade, raise it up like grandma's pump handle. We're getting a little vibration. That's okay. We'll make a finer cut. All right, so now I'm going to make the stalk or the stem. All right? Just work backwards, make our V cuts to get rid of material. All right. We're going to push the point of the tool, right? When you make a cove, it's push, lean, drop, and twist, and the tool must go what? It must end above the wood. Right? So I'm pushing it right through. See how that's above the wood? All right, so I'm going to make my minimum diameter pushing toward the tailstock. Now when I come back out here, I'm not going into the bulk of the wood, which would catch and flip it off the lathe. Now I'm going to push this way toward the tailstock, and guess what? By making the minimum cut, then the end grain won't split all the way out to the end of the finial. So we're going to just push the point of our tool till we come back and we match that. Right, out there, we'll make just a slight adjustment right there. Okay, that's not totally perfect. We'll go on. Well, we'll touch it. What the hell? Okay, that'll be close enough today. So then what we're going to do, we'll just make a V cut. I'll make a flat cut. Roll my hip to the side. I'm going to make another little V cut right here. I'm going to make a V cut right here. Now I've given a place for my tool to go to make it roll a bead. So I'll just roll a little bead right there. We'll take the corner off. Then we're flat on the equator. We're going to push the point all the way around to the South Pole. Keep coming all the way around. Bingo. Clean that up just a little bit. Now, I'm going to go back in here. Now I'm going to go back to the equator and I'm going to push the point of the tool all the way to the North Pole. And we roll a little bead that's sliced. All right, so now we'll make a V cut right here. Now notice, right, other than these little discs right here, what is happening? Everything's progressing a little bit larger, all right? See, so now I got to make this a little larger right here. See that? I'll make a little onion right here. I'm going to continue on with where my dome was. And if we get a little differential right there, if we get a little differential from where we squoze this thing on, then we can do what? We can make a tiny, tiny cut. And push the point all the way down. We're going to make this little dome. And Sammy, I just thought of something. I just thought of something. Make that a little bit thinner. We're pushing the point in. We'll always push the cut line with the point of the tool and let the curve of the tool act like a farmer's plow and clean slice out the wood. Okay. I'm getting a little reflection in there. That's going to be close enough. Okay, so now can the camera see this right here?
Drop it down close.
Farther than this angle between here and here, or the front will scrape and crap up my wood. So I can take this in as far as my tool will allow me. And then I can't take it anymore because I'm always cutting at 11 or 1, and the end of the cut you roll back to 12 to clean out the whizzers. This is for you. Okay. Hope the camera can see this. Let me just, it's been in the tool back there. Let me just do this. Okay. Can the camera see this?
Gotcha.
Huh? Okay, so this is just an old round, worn out spindle gouge or something, you know. So what I've done, huh?
Back your hand up just a little bit. Just slow. There you go. Keep it that and open it up. Open your hand.
There you go.
And
Okay, so what I've done is I've put the top of this on the 8-inch wheel. And that will automatically make what? An elliptical shape. If you're coming across a round piece. Then I've taken the back and made the convex grind. We don't do a concave grind, we do a convex grind.
On the back.
On the back.
On the hillside.
Right. Because with a convex grind, once I touch this tool, the first 128th of an inch or so of metal touches the wood, everything else is breakaway. If I have a concave grind, right, then that heel is going to get in the way. I can make a finer cut with a convex grind than I can with a detail gouge with a concave grind. Right? So all we're doing is we're laying this on here. Just touch this. I'm at 11 o'clock. I push the point toward the center of rotation and I go back to 12. I come back to this side. I push the point in at 11, roll it to 12, and I come back.
So Mark, just from off lightning fast brain, I gotta ask you a question. The back side, the heel side of that tool is convex.
Convex.
Thank you, sir.
Same thing on the spindle gouge. Convex.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me make a final cut and I'll pass it around.
Mark, is this basically what used to be called a squeegee gouge?
No. Squeegee gouge is totally different. Right.
That's just made out of round steel?
Right.
So what are you cleaning up there, Mark?
So what? I'm cleaning up the joint between the two beads. All right?
Makes a difference.
Okay.
You couldn't do that before to the tear it out.
So let me go down to 1. This is where I need the light. Okay. That's as far as I'm going to go today. Okay. Let's pass these around.
Look at your call.
What?
Look at your call.
I call it a suicide tool. Because if you go 1/10 of a degree past 12, you catch the top blade, and this thing is gone.
Can you pass both the tools around?
You have what?
Can you pass both the tools around?
Yeah.
So that we can see why you can get in with that one?
Okay. Yeah, let me just give you this.
Unless you're about to use it.
This is not straight. That's ingenious right there for me. Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay. So now we know that this thing fits, right? We know that this finial fits in our opening. Right? Now, before I took this off the lathe, what would I do? I'd put the finish on it, wouldn't I? Right? Now you have several choices of finish. Right? You could spray it with lacquer. You could spray it with Krylon. Right? We could put a little super glue on there. You know, we could just take some triple E A-Butte and polish it up. We could use friction polish. There's a lot of things. But just start working backwards. Let me move this tool rest up. Don't be afraid to move your tool rest 1,000 times. So now I've got to part this thing off. very carefully. Very carefully. So now I'm going to rub the bevel. If I touch this tool, this sharp tool, right here, pow, right? But watch, I got to make an undercut. So how do you do it? You rub the bevel first. As long as I rub the bevel, then I can turn and I can go up underneath. Always rub that bevel first, you know? I'm going to support it a little bit out here. Okay. It twisted off at the very end, but that's okay. For the sake of today, I'm not going to use any sandpaper. I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to pass it around so you can see if I'm worth my salt. So now we've got to part it off the lathe. So what tool are we going to use to part it off?
Beads or cones or this kind of?
No. Now, usually, if I'm, like, if I make a stem for this, right, then I'll mimic my one bead in the middle of the stem. I'll have a bead up, a bead down. If I do 2 beads, I'll put 2 beads up, 2 beads down, right? I try to get some type of correlation between the stem and the hollow form. Now, when we go to make bottoms, right? If we go to make bottoms on these little hollow forms, what's the very first thing you do? You always make the bottom first.
Let me ask you a question that I've wondered. In proportion to this vessel,
It's too tall. That one's too tall.
so we're adhering to the golden mean.
About a 1/3. Looks more proportional.
Okay.
That one's too tall. Now, watch what happened. Here, let me just show you something here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So now, if you want to see something,
Beads or cones or this kind of?
no. Now, usually, if I'm, like, if I make a stem for this, right, then I'll mimic my one bead in the middle of the stem. I'll have a bead up, a bead down. If I do 2 beads, I'll put 2 beads up, 2 beads down, right? I try to get some type of correlation between the stem and the hollow form. Now, when we go to make bottoms, right? If we go to make bottoms on these little hollow forms, what's the very first thing you do? You always make the bottom first.
Let me ask you a question that I've wondered. In proportion to this vessel,
It's too tall. That one's too tall.
so we're adhering to the golden mean.
About a 1/3. Looks more proportional.
Okay.
That one's too tall. Now, watch what happened. Here, let me just show you something here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. So now, if you want to see something, let's show you something nice pieces. Right, but guess what? When people come to my home, well, they ask me to show them stuff online. Right? I take pictures of them and they choose A, B, C, or D. Well, if they saw somebody just pay $8,000 for a piece of mine, at an auction of millionaires that are doing good, right? Then if I say it's gonna be, you know, 3,700, they write the check, mail it to me.
Mark, I have trouble just getting like these curry bowls for Blair Bats in the hospital here.
Well, I'm just saying, I just did a box of these for the Irish Scholarship Fund. I've already gotten 7 orders.
Really? Yeah.
7 orders. Right? So, what you give away comes back
You're right.
back to you in spades. And if you're doing goodness, you know, goodness prevails.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Now, I'm going to tell you something else. This is just for your information. All right? I have gone to several different clubs when they're doing something for charity. If it's a charity thing, this year I'm going up to, I've already got Crossville, Tennessee scheduled, the Cumberland Woodturners. I'm driving up there. They're doing Christmas ornaments, you know, for charity. I donate my time free of charge. Pay my gas and give me a few meals, and I'll be up there all day long for free if you're doing something for charity. That's not a bad offer. So, anyway, there's a lot of things out here. Now, getting back to this. Why is this flat? So it doesn't roll away? Does that answer the question? Huh? Is that okay?
That's fine with me.
Well, how do you keep yours from rolling, Gerald?
I put them back in the rack.
Oh, okay.
How do you turn it flat?
I told Sonny about this. Get Mark Gardner to come down to your club. He does great hands-on. He's a wonderful woodturner. One of the best demonstrations I ever saw. Right? He put a round log on the lathe and ended up with a perfectly square bowl. One of the best demos I've ever seen. Okay. We had a burning question about end grain cutting. How many people do end grain bowls?
I've tried.
Why not?
I've tried, you know, and just, I'm here to learn. That's what
Okay,
I'm saying.
all right.
I do it near a lot of powders.
A lot of powder.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, we've got I found this is a little end grain piece of ambrosia maple. I was going to make a hole. You finish your front completely, all the way down to your 800 random orbit. You turn around and you put the jaws inside the 2-inch. You turn around and you clean the tenon off the back and it's over. Right? Really quick. Right? Okay.
So why are you supporting right now with your tailstock?
Because you can.
Because the first time I put something on a tenon, I always put the tailstock up for safety.
Okay.
If you had forgotten to tighten this, if something had happened, and when you touch this outside edge, it's the greatest point of leverage against your thing. Or if you'd made a sloppy tenon and you didn't make a right angle back here so that the front of the jaws would touch, it can come out of the lathe, no matter how big or how small. Again, I've developed habits. It's just like that stopping it before I break. I've developed habits that have kept me injury free. And the minute that you don't think that something can get away, it's already over before you even are aware of it.
That's a fact.
And it's too quick, right?
I
Now,
mean, that's a great point. That's a great point.
so once I do this, right, then I know that if I touch this, I have seen students right? And I have done it a few times myself. I've gone up, I've turned around a bowl, you know, to cut that rim, and I've gone up, and I say, well, I'll face that thing off. We move our hip to the right, so that the tool never bounces. People fight it, do all that. No, because you don't move your left hand. Your left hand stays your hip around your fulcrum point, which is get true round instantly. That gets it round, it goes through any inclusions or whatever. So now we can start shaping. We want our bowl to have sort of a bowl shape, right? So once we achieve round up here, I bet you guys have seen this before. So once we achieve round, right, then we do what? We put a do not touch line. And we're not allowed, my students are not allowed to touch that line until after the bowl is finished. After we have this do not touch line, the next thing we do is we create a tenon or a recess. If this is side grain, and it's wet wood, and it's things like box out or whatever we do. So now I have a right angle. So I take my bevel and I put it on my spindle right there, and I go in at a 45. Right, I turn it up, and now I make a right angle. And so now when I look at this thing, it's not quite at a right angle, so I'm going to make that little adjustment. Okay, I've got my 90 degrees. Now can the camera see overhead where my tool is?
Yeah.
Watch what I'm going to do, folks. Here we go. I'm going to roll the tool completely closed. Then I'm going to pull it backwards. So now what I have a sharp corner down in there. See that? I've got a sharp corner. Because it's the front wall that holds the bowl on, it's not the tenon. If you have a little rounded portion down in here, then that front jaw is not face up tight. It can flip out of the gouge. On my gouge, this is a little deep, so I've got to make this about 3/8 of an inch, and then it will not touch the back wall. It only touch the front wall. Okay, so now I've got this line, which is my diameter, and I've got my tenon. I'm going to mark the foot. So my foot's going to be about 1/3. So I think my foot will be right about there. There's the foot of my bowl. So now my shape has to go between here and here. One of the problems people do is they make the shape of the bowl and then they try to make the tenon. Now they got to reshape the shape of the bowl because it changes the dynamic. Let's just do it one time. So what tools do we have in our arsenal, right, to make the final outside cut? Bowl gouge. Right, so what are we going to do? It's going to be down at a 45. The flutes are at a 45. Right, we come back here, we hold our body triangle. Right, and we have to do what? We have 3 motions. We have to push forward, we have to go around, and we have to raise the handle to drive it to the center of rotation. If we don't, if we push it straight, it slides off. You see people doing this because the tool doesn't travel in a straight line, only travels in an arc. Right? So we anchor the tool on the tool rest? A, B, we rub the bevel. C, we create a cut line. Now we push, bring our hips around, and slowly raise the tool and drive it to the center, essentially making a bead. And then we stop the lathe. Right? We come up. If anybody wants to feel the cut, they're welcome to come up and feel it.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
How you Thomas now? You say you wish you could do this all day.
I said, yeah, you know how it is when you like that.
So now we're going to use a spindle gouge. How slow can you go? Make the final cut. Anybody want to come up and feel it?
Got with a spindle gouge?
Yeah, I've had enough, I guess.
Why did you switch to a spindle gouge?
What?
Why did you switch to a spindle gouge instead of using a bowl gouge? Just to show us.
Because the bowl gouge doesn't have the best architecture. Now, stand right here, and we're going to make another final cut. Right? So now, let's make our final cut with the roughing gouge.
Now watch the cords up there, please.
Yeah. Okay, watch. We're going to make the final cut with a roughing gouge. Right? So now this is going to be the smoothest cut of all of these tools. Right?
Look at what's coming off.
And now you can feel that it is sliced clean.
Let's see the bevel in there. So this is just a standard roughing gouge.
But it's got a swept back bevel.
Yeah.
People have a roughing gouge up like this. Well, if you try to push that forward, it's like pushing into a wall. The only thing it cuts is the edge of the blade, so sweep that way back and then you can push it
You're
forward.
kind of riding the bevel with it, though, aren't
We're
you?
always riding the bevel. That's what supports the cut. Right? If I don't ride the bevel, what happens? I get
You get
lines on my work.
Control,
Right? Just for those that are really crazy, I think I've showed this before here.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you've got two little rabbit ears. You use it upside down. So now all you have is a razor blade. You want to come up and watch this, Sammy?
Yes, sir.
You're talking about it. Okay, everybody can come up here. All right, so I'm going to rub the bevel. And the only thing that's ever going to touch the wood is that little razor blade on the front. See that little tiny razor blade?
You cutting with the top blade or the bottom blade?
The inside blade. And if I'm going this way, I got to cut with the inside blade. Now you feel that, you see? Nice.
It
So
didn't burnish the surface like the other ones did, but
No.
it's smooth.
Right.
All right, boss, let me ask you one question. You're cutting, Sammy's pointing it out.
Right, here we go. Right there. You're on the bevel. Right, see that little point? That's the only thing that goes into the wood. See that? Right there. That little point. It's a razor blade. See how thin it is?
Back for move your hand, right?
Okay, here we go. Right, you see that? We're on the bevel. See that? It's on the bevel. We bring it forward, create the cut line, and now we just push the tool forward.
That one ought to be called your suicide gouge.
Oh no.
I got one of the suicide gouges. It killed you.
And see when you,
Suicide is murder.
so what I'm saying
I thought it
is,
was a beating tool, you know, one of those.
no, so now you have for end grain work, you have a wonderful outside cut tool with no resistance.
All right, Governor, let me just fix my lightning fast brain. You're using the point to go into the woods, correct?
Right.
But it's actually cutting on this inside
No.
edge. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's cutting, always push the cut line with the point,
Yeah.
and it's cutting here.
Yes.
Now, come around here, Tim. Come on around here.
Watch the cord.
Watch the cords, unless Gerald kills us all.
What is that?
Watch the cord. Could be a fatal
Put it over your hand.
Is that a?
Okay, your right hand. You gotta stand back that way a little bit. Put your hand over the tool. There you go. Just grab it. All right. So now let's turn it on. Okay, here we go. Put your hand off the end of the tool. There you go for lever. Now move back a little bit. There we go. So now we've got that bevel, right? We're gonna rub the bevel. All right. Now bring your handle forward to create the cut line. Now we have the cut line. Twist it up just a little bit. Now just push it, raise the handle, keep coming right around. Keep coming right around.
I wasn't in position, my feet were out of whack. I
Okay.
see that now.
Okay, now just push the point right on around. Raise the handle, go into the center. Now how slick is that? It's clean as a pin.
Do you sell those tools?
It's just a bowl gouge. You go home and grind it.
Oh.
That's worth it.
Oh.
It's a ball gouge or a spoon gouge?
Bowl gouge.
You just.
Use my skew on here and push that cut. It's okay on end grain. But I'm going to do the same thing. It's very difficult, and if I take that skew and I roll it 1/4 of a degree past the east-west rule, what happens? Kaboom. So if I have this in my hand, guess what? I got my body triangle. I've got a lot less chance of accident. If I've got this in my hand, I don't have to worry about that little angle. I can push it around. The skew is fine, but most people get in trouble with the skew. Okay, so we've done our final outside cut here. Let me just make a shape. Just be done with this. Right, now what happens if I push this bowl gouge around this way? I get sort of a powder, don't I? See that? I get a powder. What happens if I make a planing cut? If I make a planing cut, I get a ribbon. So if I take the inside blade and I make a planing cut, we should get a ribbon. Okay? It's how the tools orient to the grain. Anyway, we'll just make a bowl shape right here. I'll make a little reverse curve, OG, just for humor. All right, that's good enough for today, for our demo. Let's turn this around. We got a few spirals. What do you think those spirals were caused by?
Heel of the tube.
What?
The heel of the tube.
It started right here. See that little dip? that little inclusion.
The camera's out of the way.
Roll it back to you.
See that?
A
That's,
little bit more.
There we go. And,
okay, that started a vibration, didn't it? So how are we gonna get rid of the spirals?
36 minutes.
No? No, what do we do? What do we do?
Light cut. Shear scrape.
Throw it away and start over.
So we just take the tool and we put a fresh burr on it.
Is that your spindle gouge again?
This is a bowl gouge.
Bowl gouge?
Which one do you want me to use? I can use any tool.
I was just wanting to know.
Now mostly, if you're gonna get any reverberation, you're gonna get it with this big boy,
Yeah.
right? That's the hardest one to control. We can take this with the big boy here. Let me just do that. I'll just challenge myself to get the most difficult tool I can work with. We eliminated the spirals just by sharpening the tool. Okay, let's get this thing end grain. Anybody learning anything?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people don't do end grain bowls, right? And what's the reason you don't do end grain bowls?
Fifth.
What?
Fifth.
Yeah. So why do I do mostly end grain bowls? How do you turn the inside without getting a tear out on an end grain bowl?
Is the pith still in that one? Can't see.
I don't know, but it doesn't make any difference. I mean, as long as the grain is running this way. I just wanted to do this on something that was totally dry so that people could, when you make the final cut, you can be the judge. People come in and they'll run a bowl cut with a green piece of wood. Well, the people, it sort of cheats the people because they never get a chance to go through the entire bowl process, you know?
If you leave the fifth in the center, what keeps?
You're doing that, so the thickness, has to be, on the bowl, has to be.
Even
equal.
all
I
the way,
understand
right.
that, yes, sir. Does it make a difference of thickness? Is there one preferred over another? You know, medium, thick to thin, or, I mean?
No, I'll just get, if I have an 18-inch bowl, it's about 1.25 inches
Yes, sir.
all the way. If it's side grain, then I'd go 1.5 inches. Right? Because you're gonna have your Now, I can take a 20-inch bowl, end grain, put it on the lathe, let it dry for a year, put it back on the lathe. It will not be out around maybe a 16th.
60.
Right, because it's all shrinking at the same rate. I don't have the differential. Right? That's why I hate side grain work personally, but you know, that's just me. So if I can make more money.
Close your mouth, chief.
What?
Like no over there.
Y'all do what you want to. I'm paying you. This is not that.
Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take, we've got our do not touch line here, right? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna face this off. And now I got this too high for the bowl bearing. You gotta change the height of your tool rest to match the thickness of your tools in your own comfort zone. So now I'm doing a plane cut, and when I'm doing the plane cut on end grain work, I'm going to get my rhythm. I'm just gonna round this off so that we got a nice. I'm gonna walk it right around. Make a nice rounded rim on there. Now, this was a green bowl, I made my safety cut. If this is a green bowl, you make a safety cut this way. You put the lower blade on there, close the face, and just slightly round that. That way, if your wrist goes up against it, it's not going to leave you scars like I've got. Because when that thing's rotating, it's like a buzzsaw.
It's vibrating for some reason.
Okay?
Try it again. Or is that?
Okay. So now, we can pull this back.
Is that where you want it?
Okay, the first cut I made was the facing cut. The second cut I made was the safety cut. The third cut I make is I put my finger on the outside of the bowl. Here's where it's in line with the shape. I put my bevel up against my finger. Then I come in, this is up here a little bit. Now I come in and I push the tool directly in. As soon as I get it in a little way, I just turn around and I peel out. We go back, we parallel, all right? And peel out. It's called stepping a bowl down. All right? So now this is going to determine my final thickness. All right? So I touch that on there. And now I'm stopping.
Mark, it's straight into the end grain that way, aren't you?
Yep, it's not going to be our final cut. We're just holding right now. Yeah, and what we're doing, the most efficient thing on the end, of course, is your planing cut. Okay? Just like you take your skew and you turn it up and you make a planing cut. Okay? While we've got some room here, I'm not going to take this all the way down because we'll let people come up and practice it. All right? So when I go to determine my depth of my bowl, right, I take the bowl gouge and I stick it in the middle. We push it straight in. It's going to center itself. There's no wobble, no matter. I drill it, and I just move out. Drill. Yeah. So, I want to determine, the bottom of the bowl. Eventually. So then I can make my final cut. While we've got some wood left here, if I do this to make my bowl cut, on this dry maple, I'm going to get a pretty good cut. But it's the wrong way on the grain. I'm going up the grain fibers. So what we're going to try to do is eliminate that. Here?
Yes.
Okay. So if I turn the bowl gouge sideways, the flutes come out. And if I'm going across the grain this way, that's a direct scrape, is it not? So if I'm going this way or I'm coming this way, that bowl gouge flute sticks out. So as I'm going forward, the cut's on the lower blade, correct? So what is it? It's a scrape. So what tool do we have in our toolbox that doesn't have wings that come out sideways? we've got a spindle gouge. So now, if I put a spindle gouge on there and I see this, it's almost directly in line with the rotation, isn't it? And what's the object of our wood slicing? The tool has to be in line with the rotation. Now, when we do this, right, and if you'll notice, this tool it's a one-sided tool.
Down a little bit.
Drop down.
Oh,
There you go.
you see that? I'm going to put something dark there for you.
No, you were right, you were right on.
Okay. I don't know. There you go. It's a one-sided tool. See that? So watch what's going to happen. If I go down in this bowl, that blade, that shallow blade's in line with the rotation, isn't it? If I have a deep bowl, then by having this one-sided, if I push this tool up towards 10 or 11 o'clock, now when I come up the inside of that bowl, look at this. That big swept blade is all in line with the curve coming up, and it's going to slice it. So if we make this final cut from the inside out, we should be able to have almost an 800 grit final sanding situation. And there'll be no tear out whatsoever. But remember one thing, we have to push the tool. Now, if you have a lathe like this, right, or a Powermatic, or whatever, it's really nice because you can just do what? You slide it down to the end, right? You can sit here and you can work off the end, just throw the shavings over your shoulder. So in this case, I have to lean over, right? I could run it in reverse, right? And go up there. If I do run it in reverse, then I have to do what? Always make sure that you have a set screw here because it would want to unscrew. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go into the center, right? Let me get that little nub out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it up towards 10 o'clock. And we should have a never-ending ribbon slicing that end grain. So now if somebody wants to come up and feel our end grain cut, if there's any tear out in there, it's going to be news to me. I'm going to make you a believer, John.
Well, the end grain, I wanted to see what that was like. 'Cause
That's
that's
crazy.
hard, that's hard to.
That's
Okay.
crazy.
Now you just heard John say that was hard to do. John, you're on.
Oh, boy. Big mouth open.
Let me get these out.
Let me see that for you. Let me see it before you break it.
You don't know about John, do you? No.
That's incredible.
This club has high turnover because of me. Okay, what angle do we do?
Okay, so you're going to be over here.
Okay.
We've got to push it on the bevel. All right. We'll get it centered. Now drop the handle down. Drop the handle. Okay. Now push with your right hand and keep turning. All right, let's get let me get that center out of there. Just a second here. Okay, now
We got that little
drop the
nub.
handle down. Yeah, okay. All right, now drop the handle way down. 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 There we go. Now push with
We
your...
need to lower the,
Now push. Keep steering. Push way out. There we go. Push. But now feel the result you just got. So if you're doing end grain boxes, right? You're doing anything in green where you need to be on the inside, right? Use a spindle gouge, and the deeper the bowl is, then you change the angle that you've got on your micro bevel. So the way we do this, right, everybody's got an old spindle gouge around. Give me a hand, give me a hand.
Yeah,
Okay, the way we do this, we just take the back. Pass it around real quick. I have that micro bevel sweep. So when I come up this wall, as we get deeper here, I'll come up that wall, and this whole thing is going to be in line with the rotation. Right? I got to get a quick copy.
This is a chance
So,
for me to buy this.
my only claim to fame, right, is that I'm sort of a tool technician. I create the tools to do the job. You're gonna go in, you're gonna push it in, yeah. You can get rid of that. If you go to Mark Sillay on wood slicing on YouTube, all this stuff is on there. So you're gonna go right up, and as you come, right, just watch this, you're gonna go up toward 11 o'clock, and then as you come along, you know, as you come up the side of the bowl, you're gonna drop it down further so that that's in line with the rotation. All right, all right, go ahead. Go to the center. You gotta come over and push it in. Just a second.
Start that real slow.
All right, okay.
Drop it down.
You do have to push.
Into it. It's kind of varnishing, isn't it?
Sammy, you broke it all.
I got it now. I feel it cut.
We're going downhill now. It's got a tit in there. See that? Let me just talk to it. It's got a tit.
Don't make it look so
Okay,
easy,
so
Mark.
now go ahead and push it. Push it.
Don't make it look so easy.
Keep pushing it to the right end. That's what it's doing. Push it up to 2 o'clock.
I'm rubbing too
You're
much.
back on the bevel.
I was rubbing too hard on the bevel.
There you go. Get a nice ribbon now. Come all the way out. Push it to the right end. But feel your cut. Feel how there's no tear.
I'm gonna try that.
Yeah.
We're getting close to lunch. As soon as we get through with this, we'll take a break.
Let me kind of get oriented here. You're gonna start out like this, and you're
And
gonna
then
come
we're
up
gonna
like
push it.
this.
We're gonna push it right up. Right up there.
If I'm hitting down here, it'd be better if it was down on the end.
Push it into the right end.
Yeah, I didn't understand what you were saying about hey, you click on start doing ingrained goals now? You're gonna start doing ingrained goals?
almost in line with that rotation.
Now I'm hitting my hand.
Now, feel the cut you do.
Sharp as a beef, baby.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Slick as ticks,
I got
Now,
my,
if you got little boxes and stuff,
Yeah.
you can do that and it slices it.
I'm gonna grind mine like that.
Nothing more coarse than 240, if I was saying.
It'd be a lot easier if you were down on this end, so you didn't hit the
Is
bed.
this the correct angle?
Yeah, we'll move that down just a little bit. We're just gonna drop it down. Keep it up like that.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I always saying.
Now push with your right hand and steer.
Oh, yeah.
Ribbon coming out,
Look at that.
you get out there.
Are you rotating the
Take
tool?
a tiny bite, take a tiny bite.
Before I start the counting,
You rotate the
Now,
tool.
look up there, you go up like that. Keep steering. Go all the way out there, you're gonna get too deep. Keep going up, if you turn all the way up now, now pull it up to the edge of the tool, up into the bowl.
And you're rotating the
Oh,
tool a little bit as it
You can
comes out.
rotate it to get the, you
Stay on.
rotate it to get the sweet spot to make the ribbon solid.
That is crazy right there. Thank you.
You're not finding an old bowl gouge or spindle gouge to grind that way.
All we're gonna do is you're gonna push in with your right hand, right? You're gonna steer it right up towards 10 o'clock and around.
And then all of a sudden it's got.
Okay, then you're gonna push with your right hand. Nice and slow, keep steering it around. You get a constant rhythm.
Look at that fine.
Constant rhythm. Keep coming all the way up the side of the bowl. All the way up to the rim. Right. Good. Now feel the cut you just made.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, it works.
It's a little bit rough down here, but as it gets up here.
Well, you can do that first.
Thank you.
Hey, Richard.
Hey.
You doing okay?
Yeah, there you go. Into the center. Right, make sure you don't stick the horns.
Okay.
Right, and then you're just gonna push and totally rotate out of the bowl. Start it. Drop the hand down a little bit. Now, push with your right hand. Into that roll. Don't go You're on the bellows too much.
Okay.
So now keep it twisted up like that. There you go. See, now you're in line. Now just push it and bring it all the way off the bowl. See that?
Ooh, hot, very hot. That takes some practice.
Feel it. Feel it. You can't feel it.
That is super smooth.
So if you're making little boxes or something, right, by having that in line with the rotation, then tear up.
I got to buy myself brand new spindle gouge, so I can cut it.
Sam, let's go ahead and break the lunch.
Let me ask you a question. When you're grinding, start here.
All right, guys, here we
First thing you do is
go.
line them off the back.
I understand.
Fixing to break for lunch right now.
You're gonna lay this over
Be
your
back
finger.
for lunch at 1
So now
o'clock
we
sharp.
start down on
You want to stay
this
by?
edge, right? And then if we want to.
Practice that there a little bit, you're fine, but we are released for lunch and be back here.
And then all we have
at
left is
1
that little section right here for
Okay,
Okay,
so we're gonna start in here.
roll it up.
Okay, roll it up. Okay, all right. All right. And then as I come up, I'm gonna roll
We're
in.
gonna- No, we're not gonna roll it to it. We're just gonna push it around and drop the handle.
Oh, Okay.
then bring it right up as you go.
Okay, all right.
Good. Roll up a little, you got it laid out too much.
Okay, all right, all right.
Good. Bring your handle this way. Just a second. I can see it. Let me take that center tail.
Okay, I'll see how you get that started now.
Okay, so now when you go in there like this,
Okay. So we're actually cutting way up here.
way down here.
Okay.
Wrap the handle down. And now push it in. Push it around, pull it around. Well, you're really pushing.
Yeah.
You're burning the
Yeah.
wood.
Okay, I see where you're cutting now.
All right, so now I'm up here at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
See that? See that curve?
Yeah.
Now watch as I come right up the wall. See how it's in line with the
Yeah.
rotation?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the chip. I'm going to
Okay.
do
All right.
Drop the handle. Come on, come on. Straight run, straight run. It's too difficult to follow.
Yeah.
But still feel really
Still,
well.
that's cool. That is cool.
We're just going to push it in. Keep pushing with the right hand. Put it all the way up behind and throw it up again.
So you were an engineer? You ever seen that place made by the Germans? North, south,
Yeah, now when you put it in, it's true.
that's the reason it's west and
It's way, in other words,
There you go. It just proves to me one thing, my finger cutting. People always put it in wrong. You just demonstrated, number one, you have hand-eye coordination. Right? And if you have a tool in your hand that will do the job, you can steer it. Hello?
Yeah.
So put tools in your hand that do the job for you.
My brother and my brother-in-law and my nephew go to, they've been going to Kenny Place for 6 years.